Salmon also suffer less visible but equally disturbing transformations.
See, this is a much smaller tail. It has bigger tails with more sharp corners. And the shell is not covering the gills, you know? That's very normal.
What we find inside the fish is even worse.
Typical. This is no. What the hell? See this? This is a fresh salmon, you see? Yeah. How it's breaking, you see? This is no good fish, you know? This you should be able to tug back and forth. It shouldn't break like this, you know? A wild salmon contains 5 to 7% fat. This contains between 14.5% and 34% fat, you understand? And since the toxic is always following the fat, you know? This is the most toxic food you have in the world. This one is.
Since these fish have more fat, the flesh of farmed fish absorb higher levels of chemical residues. And the observations of Kurt Odegaard have now been confirmed by the studies of a French researcher. Jérôme Rouzan works for the University of Bergen in Norway. He measured the concentration of toxic chemicals present in various food products. And the results that he obtained are enlightening.
The different colors represent different pollutants. Here you have different food products. Hamburger, whole milk, eggs, apples, potatoes, cod, and farmed salmon.
That's incredible. We can see from the chart that the farmed fish has much higher levels than the other products.
Compared to other products, we can see very clearly that farmed salmon contains much more pollutants. You can see the number as well as I can.
Farmed fish is 5 times more toxic than all the other products found in our supermarkets. For Jérôme Rouzan, the conclusion is obvious. Do you still eat farmed fish?
No, I don't.
You've stopped since these studies?
Yeah. You simply must avoid exposure to these pollutants. By ingesting them, you're exposed. That's obvious.
Because it not only is about measuring these pollutants, it's also about evaluating their effects on these laboratory rats.
Here we have it.
Okay, I'm going to stop the video right there, warriors. Good afternoon. It is 3 p.m. Alaska time, May 12th, 2024. I want to show you the companies that are supporting farmed salmon and has bought up our resources, our fish houses here in Alaska, around the country actually. One Cheese Fish Company on the East Coast just shut their doors. They have bought the picking houses. All these restaurants and companies need to be boycotted, but they're monsters. We can never hurt them unless we literally stop buying their stuff. But they want to farm all seafood, charge you ungodly amounts of money for very toxic seafood, while they are putting out the commercial fishermen of those countries, all of our countries, I'm sure. But every one of these companies need to be boycotted. I actually care about your health. All this stuff that's being fed to these fish is so unhealthy. These are not real fishermen with these fake smiles. Stronger Through America. This is the company that's trying to put us out of business and feed you very toxic seafood. But I just went over what's wrong with the farm Atlantic salmon. That is not a true salmon. It is more like a trout species. It gives birth and returns to the ocean like a rainbow trout, a steelhead does or something. But let's move on from salmon. We need to boycott all these companies. These people are not friendly. They are buying up our local family-owned fish houses, Fortune Seafood. are buying up our local fish houses and are giving us from a half to a third less of the profits we were receiving 2 years ago. They are not giving us the income that we deserve. Stand by for the disgusting truth about farm shrimp. We just covered salmon, and I will do more on salmon. But here's the disgusting truth of shrimp. Farm shrimp should be boycotted. They bought all the commercial picking houses in Florida. So y'all have farm shrimp from now on. Louisiana, it's hard to get rid of the shrimp now because of what they did to the picking houses. But here's the disgusting truth about farm shrimp, which I do not eat anything I do not catch myself. I eat very little seafood from across the table from somewhere else. Standing by here, watch this, very important.
Researcher Barry Estabrook was on NPR and he was talking about the shrimp that we eat. And it turns out that 90% of the shrimp that goes on our plates comes from Asia. Okay, and they're also farmed in toxic sewage ponds.
Oh, it sounds delicious.
It's disgusting. Okay,
I can't believe this is true, man.
It is true.
And the
In
minute
fact,
I saw it, I was like, no way, I'm eating the 10% that's clean.
Look, I don't want to believe it because I really love shrimp. Shrimp, even though it's high in cholesterol, is low in calories. So I like to substitute my meat with shrimp all the time. Right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Shrimp is a bad idea.
Shrimp
though.
is very American. I'm in favor of it. It turns out, though, ironically, it's not.
Not American at all.
It's grown in an Asian sewage dump. All right,
Exactly.
tell us details.
Okay, so this is something that Public Citizen has actually written about, and it's a huge problem because, you know, back in the day, shrimp used to be extremely expensive. Most people couldn't afford shrimp, but they found a way to produce shrimp in masses, so it becomes cheaper to buy. So now you see shrimp at like fast food restaurants, like Long John Silver's, and then like once in a while Del Taco will have like shrimp tacos. And you're like, how does that happen, right?
Okay, that's the one that's definitely coming from Asia. There's no question about that.
Totally. Okay, so what they're doing, what these shrimp farmers in Asia are doing is they want to make sure that they maximize their profits. So they have all of these shrimp living in these tiny little ponds, and they're constantly defecating in those ponds, constantly eating their own defecation.
Like a little shrimpy poop.
Little shrimpy poop, but it's disgusting.
But it adds up.
But it adds up, and they're constantly in this dirty, toxic, diseased water, right?
Okay.
And as a result, the shrimp farmers have to pump in as many antibiotics as possible. So what type of effect does that have on our own bodies? Well, we start developing something known as antibiotic resistance. So when we get sick, it gets more and more difficult to treat our illnesses.
So, you're like, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, I don't know what's worse, if you eat the shrimp that's been sitting in the toxic water, or if you eat the shrimp that's been cleaned by all those antibiotics, which then makes our system so much more vulnerable.
These shrimp ponds last a maximum of 7 years because they're so toxic that after 7 years, the shrimp can no longer survive in the type of water or in the type of conditions that they're living in. So they have to completely get rid of that pond because it's toxic, it's horrible.
Right, but the shrimp that come out right before they close the pond, I bet they're delicious.
Del Taco thinks so.
And look, we don't want to just put it on Del Taco. It's 90% of the shrimp in the country, right? It scared the hell out of me. And the problem is, how do you run away from it, man? Like, so what do? You stop eating shrimp, but then you're going to eat a burger that's got mad cow disease. I mean, everything is so genetically engineered, so poorly raised in so many ways. We've totally lost sight of what natural food is. I mean, as much as you can, probably eat organically grown food. And I'm no hippie who says that. I mean, I haven't hugged a tree in decades. But I'm telling you, man, you read stories like this and you think that's why you eat organic food.
It's really, really, really difficult. It's something that I've personally tried to do myself, and it's the bad food, the processed meat, the meat pumped with antibiotics. It's inescapable because it's cheap. You can find it everywhere, and when you're really hungry, what are you going to do? You're going to buy it, right? So, and buying the organic stuff, the free-range chicken, it's really, really expensive. It's not just, you know, a couple dollars more. I try to buy the organic eggs, you know, the free-ranged chicken, the hormone-free milk, all of that stuff. It really adds up.
No, I hear you. We do the same thing. But the milk, the eggs, and the bananas, that's what I do, right? That ain't going to cut it. You know, we're living in that swamp, in that little pond that you're describing in a sense, you know? until at one point it's going to get too toxic and they're going to shut it down. Planet Earth.
He is absolutely correct. This is about salmon here. The toxic truth. 4 more minutes. Even the McDonald's hamburgers, not all hamburgers. There's not enough cows on the planet to feed all the McDonald's burgers y'all have ate this week. It's soy. You are being fed soy, and it's so bad for you. So are these fish, though, and that's why they are so bad for you. Stand by for Tasmanian Atlantic salmon, the toxic truth.
I'm Miriam Margulies. I've always thought it's much more important what you put into your mouth than what comes out of it. So it's alarming when you find out that a food you're told is essential to good health and well-being is actually not. It's the opposite. What is more dangerous is when the truth is withheld or discarded in favour of profit, potentially doing harm. I'm talking, of course, about industrially farmed Tasmanian Atlantic salmon. Not that this fish has ever swum in the Atlantic, nor, for that matter, swum anywhere, but in a cage, fin to fin, with thousands of its kin. Farmed Tasmanian Atlantic salmon is a shadow of its wild cousin, genetically selected to be quick-growing for quick bucks, a Frankenstein fish, in fact. Eating this fish is not good for you. Its unnatural diet sees to that. Industrial preservatives, trans fats and saturated fats, all there as a result of the chicken feathers, beaks, feet, carcasses and additives used to make its breakfast, lunch and dinner. A farmed Tasmanian Atlantic salmon ends up with more chicken fat in its body than an actual chicken. Their flesh is coloured for your dining pleasure and laced with chemicals which are banned elsewhere. Their round cages are a cauldron of disease and deformity that sits over a bubbling mound of filth that smothers the seabed and starves the water of life-giving oxygen. Farmed Tasmanian Atlantic salmon is not a superfood. It's a super fat bomb. The trans fats in them are an industrial additive, banned in the United States and condemned by our Australian Heart Foundation. A 200-gram serve of this salmon has more fat than a Big Mac and fries. I'm going to say that again. You need to hear it twice. A 200-gram serve of this salmon has more fat than a Big Mac and fries. The chemical preservatives they use are banned in all of the European Union as their safety is questioned. Think, if you will, of these toxins as they make their way into the breast milk of a nursing mother after eating this fish. A duty of care is required by all those that farm and grow our food. It's a right we're entitled to. Foods recommended as healthy must be just that, healthy. In the words of Charles Dickens, subdue your appetites, my dears, and you've conquered human nature. Don't buy Tasmanian Atlantic salmon. Please.
We are back now with an NBC News investigation tonight, and as you watch this next report, keep this one fact in mind. 80% of the fish and shrimp we eat in this country is imported. 80% of it shipped here from overseas. Tonight, our investigation has found some of that seafood may contain toxic chemicals and may cause serious health issues over time. Our report from NBC's Jeff Rossen.
This video shot by a U.S. advocacy group shows dirty sewage water used to raise seafood in Vietnam. The fish pumped with toxic antibiotics and banned drugs just to keep them alive, boosting production and driving down costs.
Would you consider this a public health threat?
Well, absolutely.
Ron Sparks is the commissioner of Alabama's Department of Agriculture, one of the only states testing imported seafood for these dangerous drugs.
In some cases, between 40 and 50% of our tests will come out positive.
State tests in Oklahoma, Mississippi, and Georgia show similar results, all targeting seafood with the worst record of contamination: shrimp, catfish, crab meat, and tilapia, imported to the U.S. from China, Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia. In some cases, officials say, ending up in our country's restaurants and grocery stores.
Unfortunately, consumers can't tell if any of these compounds are in their seafood. You can't smell it, can't taste it, you can't cook it out.
So how dangerous are these chemicals? Scientists say over time, eating this tainted seafood could cause anemia, cancer, even birth defects. The FDA says the risks are long-term and not fully understood. While the FDA is responsible for keeping the nation's food supply safe, our NBC News investigation found it tests less than 2% of imported seafood.
Does the FDA need to do more?
I would certainly suggest that the FDA do more.
The FDA declined to speak with us on camera, but said it's doing the best it can, targeting its testing on companies and countries that are repeat offenders and rejecting their products until they're proven safe. John Connolly runs a trade group representing the imported seafood industry.
The FDA says seafood from overseas is still coming in with the toxic chemicals. It's been a problem for years, and it's not stopping. So what are the importers doing to stop it?
To say any unauthorized use of antibiotics is inappropriate. The vast majority of seafood coming in does not exhibit any kind of problems.
He says most importers do follow the government's rules, and this problem is being overblown as a trade issue. He says this video of polluted fish ponds and raw sewage is misleading. Instead, he gave us his own video of picturesque fish farms in Vietnam. But when you buy seafood, chances are you don't know where it comes from. While federal law requires grocery stores to disclose its country of origin.
Where's the tilapia from?
China. In restaurants where most of us eat our seafood, it's a different story. Most states don't require them to tell you where it's from at all.
As a consumer, don't I have a right to know where my seafood is coming from?
Consumers should feel comfortable that FDA does a good job.
But some officials say until more seafood is tested, consumers are at risk. Jeff Rawson, NBC News, New York.
I'm going to leave you with one last video here from High Mark Pictures about Bristol Bay gill netting that's really important to me, and how the pebble mine is endangering this very important, healthy, wild-caught salmon. They are destroying our world, buying up all our industries and making us eat very toxic seafood, as y'all have seen. Thank you, warriors, for the people that is still standing by. I hope you enjoyed this very important video to me. I've copied it once myself. I fish here. I was here the year that they are making this video. That's a giant volcano in the background. Commercial fishermen standing by. Please boycott all these industries that I showed you. Please boycott all farm seafood that is not grown here within the United States. And even them, I would be suspect. Farm industries are dangerous. We need to eat wild animals, wild caught fish. Commercial fishermen standing by. I hope you enjoyed this film. It's very important to me. Please comment, and I will try to get back to y'all. Commercial fishermen standing by, and thank you to the ones who donated. Y'all are truly the warriors that are helping me get through all this. Thank you. Enjoy this film.
This is the Alaska Department of Fish and Game in King Salmon with an announcement for Igigik and Ugashik District fishermen. The time is 12 noon and the date is Saturday, July 15th. Harvest on July 14th was 414,000 and cumulative harvest stands at 9.8 million. Commercial fishing in the Egegik District will be permitted with both drift and set gillnet gear from 5 p.m. Saturday, July 15th until 10 a.m. Sunday, July 16th, a 17-hour extension. This has been the Alaska Department of Fish and Game and King Salmon.
Here.
We'll clean all the way.
Peter, where'd our deck go?
You'll get it clean. We got an hour and a half. We'll get a lot clean. It's not a big mess.
What are you doing? Beautiful.
I think this is a 20,000-pound day on the 18th.
No, he just needs to put it on the...
Oh, man. Most people are going home or something, right?
I don't want to bounce around.
56.5 million fish. That was the total gun this year in the Bristol Bay area. 37.7 million sockeye were harvested. That's 200 million meals being distributed throughout the world, creating 14,000 jobs for hardworking Americans who love what they do, and continuing a 120-year-long tradition of community, sustainability, and hard work. The Pebble Mine is one threat that's simply not worth it. Speak out now and add your name to the list of people who understand what is at stake, because this resource is worth protecting.
They did a fantastic job. All right, Warriors. They did a fantastic job. I want to say that again. Not many people know the compassion that we have as commercial fishermen. I mean, my life is fishing until I figured out they're trying to destroy it. I mean, I have done a lot of things. This is my old site. I'm not even allowed to log back into. I have a lot of old fishing videos. Anybody want to ever go over there and look at it? A good friend of mine that died. He rolled his truck. Done a lot of fishing though. Commercial fishermen, stand by. Please boycott all farm raised and these companies that's destroying our industry. They have bought it all up and they are shutting us down. Either buy it, shut it down, or make it so low profit that we're about to quit. It's maybe my last year in Alaska. Commercial fishermen standing by. Y'all have a good night, a good morning, a good day, and a good evening. We're all on different timelines. Standing by. Commercial fishermen out.